All right, so hello, folks. Very good morning, good afternoon,
Mm.
good evening, wherever you might be. Thank you for joining us for this webinar. We can talk about all things .NET MAUI and cross-platform dev for the next hour. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right,
Mm.
so let's introduce ourselves. Why don't you go first, Lisa?
My name is Alyssa Nichol. I am a DevRel at Progress, and not only do I love all things JavaScript, but .NET. I'm actually at .NET Developer Days right now in Warsaw, so joining you from the evening side of the world. But what
Yeah.
about you, Sam?
Well, I'm Sam. I mostly do .NET. I'm not brave enough like you. I dabble a little bit into JavaScript, but it's the magic of technology. We are here together on the same screen, but we are on different parts of the world. I'm in
Mm.
Northwest Pennsylvania. It's still morning, before lunchtime, but your background looks amazing. So glad you could join us from the Europe.
Mm.
From the EU. So let's begin. And we have folks in the chat room as well. So if you have any questions, fire away using your Q&A panel. You can use the hashtag #HeyTelerik on Twitter if you are there to leave a breadcrumb, and then we'll get back to you. Let's talk about Maui. And I think we have. You may have seen some of this slides if you have been in the ecosystem. So we want to kind of go through this as quickly as possible, slides wise. And then Alyssa and me
Mm.
want to just show you as many things as we can. It's going to be all, live and maybe a little risky, but we'll have a little fun. All right.
Listen,
So let's.
if something doesn't crash during a presentation, you're not doing it right.
Right. Yeah. Is it even real? So first up, I think we are all coming out of a global pandemic, hopefully, fingers crossed. And you might be in different parts of the world, but I do hope, we do hope that you and yours are taken care of. And hopefully, what Alyssa and me are trying to do here is, share the love. You might hear some, rumblings along the way that this is very new technology, and so you might be a little nervous. We are here to tell you that it's production ready, and you can mix and match a lot of different things. Alyssa is a JavaScript girl. I'm a .NET guy. I'm an old man, but we're trying to, coexist together. So I think it's all good. So let's begin with .NET first. We will talk about JavaScript a whole lot more. But as we stand today, .NET is a very unified, stable platform. It's taken them a while to get here, but .NET 6 came out last November. We are almost getting ready to ship .NET 7 this November. And it's going to be very nice because it's one unified dev stack, and the tools of our trade have come a long way. You can build just about every type of app with .NET. And this picture doesn't really change with .NET 7, just more stability, more types of frameworks and apps that we are able to support. So speaking of that, let's talk about here's what's the latest and greatest, and we are looking at things as of yesterday that came out. So .NET 7, we are at release candidate 2. So after like 7 or 8 previews, we are at
Oh
release candidate
man,
level.
I'm behind on RC. I didn't know we
Oh,
were on
yeah.
two. That was yesterday? Darn it.
That was yesterday. So we are no, I mean .NET 7 RC2 bits came out last week, and then the MAUI support
Last
came
week.
out
Yep.
yesterday. Yeah. So there are some focus areas with .NET 7. We want to enable more cross-platform dev. So .NET MAUI is your cross-platform .NET strategy going forward. There is emphasis on cloud native and containers, but a lot of also love and effort being put into making things more performant. Lots and lots of performance improvements, enabling ARM64 devices to work with .NET, and then also modernizing your stack. So .NET MAUI, it started out with .NET 6 as your runtime. That was last November. .NET MAUI came out of general availability, May of this year, and then we are at RC2 support right now as well with .NET 7. And we support the latest Android bits, and as of yesterday, we support the latest iOS bits as well. This has been cooking for a while.
Oh, because I was having Xcode issues.
Yeah, a
You're
lot
saying
of moving
that's
pieces
fixed now.
here. Yeah, it is fixed now. A lot of moving pieces here. So Visual Studio, be it on Windows or Mac, you are on the latest and greatest if you want to be. On Windows, you can actually install things and they coexist nicely. On Mac, you can roll back to previous versions if you wanted to, but the latest is 17.4 preview 4. So good things happening all across the board. Just a quick, refresher, because I think we're going to talk about a couple of different app types, desktop apps, mobile apps, but just here's a quick refresher of where things are, mobile, desktop, and web-wise. So mobile, I say 2023, because, if you're starting an app now, you're not shipping it this year. It's almost holiday season. So you have a lot of choice, pick the stack that works for you. If you want to do web stuff, by all means, go do web. You got mobile web, you got progressive web apps. You can do beautiful things to make your web applications a very good citizen on mobile devices and on desktop as well. If you'd rather do native, go do native, but it's just a little expensive. Hopefully in this day and age, you're thinking of doing cross-platform. And if you want to do cross-platform, lots of things you can do, from JavaScript native to cross-compiled native. So .NET and Xamarin, they are all kind of in that last bucket. This is kind of where we began with .NET going cross-platform. This was called Mono Touch, Mono iOS, then Xamarin iOS, Xamarin Android. This has not gone away, by the way. You can still write shared C# and then write iOS, Android, and Windows heads separately. This is now just baked into .NET. It's called .NET for iOS and .NET for Android, but it does need you to know those, native stacks a little bit. This is what I'm more of a fan of, because now you get to write some shared UI, which can either be in XAML or it can be in C# or F#. And now we render native UI. This is what Xamarin Forms was, but the reality is there are some pain points with Xamarin Forms. And again, Xamarin Forms isn't going away. You got support until May 2024, so you got some time to move things over. But an evolution of that, and hopefully by now people are starting to feel the promise, is .NET MAUI, which is multi-platform app UI. I'm sure you may have seen this screen from the Microsoft folks. These are some of the things I really, really love about .NET MAUI. So you got true cross-platform, native mobile and desktop. We'll talk about this a little bit more in my demos, and we, mentioned this a lot. It's native for mobile and desktop, but mobile and desktop are very different form factors. So even though your code base is truly a single code base, single project system, shared resources, the UX should not be the same on mobile and desktop, and you should cater to different form factors differently if you can. But you got easy platform access, and you get everything you want on iOS or Android, as well as on Windows and Mac. You got a new way of rendering UI, so everything is good. And we are welcoming web developers, although we essentially mean you can now share our pain a little bit, because like native development does involve some complexities. So it's a good ecosystem that you're coming into. Desktop, how do we build for desktop? Again, folks like me who are old, we have seen this evolution over the 20 years. It's refreshing to have a lot of choice, but it's also, I can understand why we question, why do we have so much of choice? You can do straight up Windows, and again, don't let anybody tell you anything that's running on .NET Framework is legacy, because it's not. It's probably running your business, and that's fine. You can run a WinForms or a WPF app on .NET 6 today, on .NET 7 and .NET 8 tomorrow. So things can nicely move forward. You can bring in, instead of throwing away your whole app, you can bring in little, islands of modernness in your stack. If you want to do web stuff, progressive web apps or Electron, you can do that. But the last two are enabled by .NET MAUI. You can bring in some Blazor, you can bring in MAUI through WinUI. And for reaching Mac and Linux, you can do straight up AppKit or Mac Catalyst. That's Apple approved way of bringing your iPad apps to the Mac desktop. You can do Electron and all the other things, but again, Blazor is welcome. .NET MAUI uses the Mac Catalyst bridge to reach Mac OS. Linux is a similar story. So lots and lots of choices. But I know Alyssa wants to talk more about the web. So how do we build web apps? If we look back at the history of .NET development and web, ASP.NET is where we have always been. And starting from web forms to MVC to Razor pages, ASP.NET has been a solid stack. It's modern, it's modular, it's cross-platform, works everywhere. It's really, really fast. But prior to like 2017-ish timeframe, where like Blazor came in, this was mostly server-side tech. I mean, you had to come back to the server, and yes, you could do Ajax, but modern web apps didn't always scale as well as they should have on the client side. So ASP.NET is still your option for all things web API until Blazor, but a lot of .NET shops chose to go with JavaScript. So that's how we write modern web apps, right? We use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and your framework of choice. It doesn't matter at the end of the day to the user how you're building it. Could be Angular, could be Vue, could be React, could be straight up jQuery. It's a modern web app. So Alyssa, what's your take on the last decade of modern web development? Am I painting a good picture?
Oh, a beautiful picture, but you didn't mention, and maybe it's because I don't have a full grasp on it, but with the latest .NET 7 bits, isn't there even like a third option for web and with like a web view? Like, am I misunderstanding?
Right,
I'm like,
right.
wait, Sam, wait.
No, we're getting there. So we
Oh,
have
okay.
all of this investment, all of this stuff that you can do on the web, and your evergreen browsers are great. They are, they're on every device type, but you want to bring some of that love back into, desktop, and .NET and JavaScript can talk to each other much more fluently nowadays, and you have ways of, embedding the web stuff much more easier. So this was all of the web stuff prior to Blazor that came out, I think 2016, end of 2016, and it's come a long way. So Blazor is our modern web development framework for all things .NET, and it's understandable why C# developers are excited about Blazor, because we get to write C# front and back. You don't have to write it all on the client side. By the way, C# and Blazor are very welcome on the server side. That's the server-side Blazor model. You have a little SignalR bridge that maintains the shadow DOM on the on the server, and then you have a client-side app. Really good for line of business apps, but the more of the lure of Blazor is running things entirely on the client side with WebAssembly, which is where you're shipping .NET DLLs out to the browser, and literally everything is running on the browser. Sure, you should have validations on both client and server side, but for the most part, your app is running client side. Now, Blazor is really good for modern web apps, but it's also not just for the web. You can actually wrap up Blazor very nicely in a PWA and make it come alive on desktop or mobile web. Electron, yes, you can do Electron with Blazor, but it can be just a little heavy-handed, and Electron does not work very well on mobile at all. It's really for desktop.
Let's just all say what we're all thinking.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. So Maui is where it is.
Just say no.
But,
just say no to Electron.
No, I think they get some bad rap, but I mean it's battle tested.
Okay.
Yeah, things like VS Code, Slack, and Figma, they're all Electron apps, and they work. But clearly
I'm tired of the people who raise their hand in my Maui talk and they go, "Have you heard of Electron?" I'm gonna start throwing things like for the.
No, it's all good. We all coexist. But .NET MAUI actually brings Blazor into the desktop and mobile world in a very different way, and that's what's called Blazor Hybrid. So the idea here is
Blazor Hybrid. Is Blazor Hybrid like super new?
Yeah, it's about I mean, it came out with .NET MAUI, so not more than a few months old. I mean, it's been cooking for a while, so this may be relatively new, but it's a modern way where we can depend on the user to have a modern web browser, and we can bring in that web browser component and bring that Blazor stuff into our desktop and mobile apps. And as we will see, it's not just for Blazor, it brings in other things as well. And Alyssa, while I'm talking, would you mind checking the Q&A panel? If you have any questions, and feel free to stop me.
Yeah, I'm watching questions. I don't see any right now, but please send them in and we will address them as they come in, or we'll chat to you if it's a private question. But yeah, send us your questions.
Absolutely. So I think Blazor Hybrid enables a lot of interesting scenarios. You can go do very native things on an iPad or an Android or on Windows or Mac with Blazor. So that's nice to have. And you can bring in all of your CSS and your Sass or your JavaScript assets. And there is a nice JS interop that works out as well. So I think reusability is key as we move things forward, as we try to mix and match. And what we're trying to say is, with .NET MAUI, you should feel welcome, right? Let's say you have a strong .NET background. You have done WinForms or WPF for a long time, or maybe you have done UWP or XAML-Informs. All of those technologies are moving forward nicely, because as .NET MAUI developer, you are essentially a .NET developer. If you don't like XAML, you don't have to do XAML. You can bring in a lot of your C# skills and be able to render your entire visual tree in C# if that's what you want. If you want to do web API, then you have a choice of moving it over to .NET 6 and 7 and gaining the performance. And if you do JavaScript, that's welcome too. And of course, if you do Blazor and .NET MAUI are kind of the key pillars of innovation going forward with .NET, because they run on the same exact runtime. So the code sharing story is particularly nice. All right, so We are here to help, no matter what you're building, all of the .NETs, web, desktop, mobile, or IoT or gaming, we are here to help with our UI. That's our Telerik, family of products for all things .NET. And then if you're doing JavaScript, we don't want to hold back your hands. Render our UI however you would like with jQuery or Angular, React, or Vue. That's all things can do UI for you. So we are like 17, 18 minutes in. I think we are doing okay on time. So Alyssa, how about we dive into some code? I'm going to start with some Maui basics, and then I know you are.
I'm so excited.
I know you are wanting to get into some of the cross-platform stuff, but let's take a quick look at where things are right now. Hopefully you can still see my screen. So if you are new to .NET MAUI, this is likely, if you do a search, this is likely where you'll start. That's our landing page, tells you all about the tooling, how to get stuff, and how to be more productive. And like I said, the latest bits are supporting .NET 7 and RC2 bits actually. So let's go ahead and I'm going to show you a variety of different things. One is I'm going to start off with the terminal and show you VS Code. Then Visual Studio on Mac is very, very good. So is Visual Studio on Windows. But just so you know, if I do a .NET and if I show you the version of .NET that I'm running, you can see it's .NET 7. RC2 bits. So latest bits is what we are running. Now let's take a look at .NET MAUI first from a desktop developer standpoint. We'll look at Blazor next, but here's where some things are. So I'm going to go into a folder where I keep my stuff, and let's take you into MAUI for desktop. I want to show you a couple of features. Like if you are coming from a WPF or a WinForms background and you're wanting to look at .NET MAUI, is this ready enough for you to build enterprise desktop apps? And the answer is yes, because we actually see enterprise clients who are building cross-platform apps with .NET MAUI now. So let's open up this project, and we're going to run this really quick while this is opening up, just so you see this. Now take a look at my command line here. I'm doing a .NET build, and I'm running it on .NET 7. The migration from .NET 6 to 7 is very, very easy. You literally change one line of code, which is down here in my CS proj. I'm going to bump up my fonts here. So in your CS proj, you have what's called target frameworks.
I was going to ask about this because I ended up just generating a new MAUI app because I wanted to be on 7. And I was like, can I just change that like STK like pointer line? Like you can just change that? There's no other places that you need to worry about?
Nope, nothing else. So let me make my fonts big enough. All right, so the target framework here, you just change it from 6 to 7, and right there your apps will start running on .NET 7. However, one thing to keep in mind is when you are changing up the target frameworks, you are trying to pull in new .NET workloads and new dependencies. So you need to make sure if you have NuGet package dependencies, those also work on .NET 7. Otherwise, you're going to have a mismatch. And one of the key things we always mention is going to your project, wherever you might be keeping it. In this case, let's look at this app here. You'll notice that there is a bin and there is an object directory. This is where your debug or your release builds are. So you may want to wipe those folders away and then let it rebuild itself. That's how you get the latest bits. So let's go ahead and run this really quick. I'm running this on Mac Catalyst. So it's a .NET build for .NET 7 running on Mac Catalyst. You get a few warnings because preview bits for .NET 7 yet. But out should come a .NET MAUI app, which is running on Mac Catalyst. Let's see, here it is. Okay, so pretty much the default app, but I'm trying to show you a few things here that are very desktop friendly. Because if you wanted to build desktop apps, what can you do? You need some extra things. So first thing is if I hover over this little image here, you see that little alt text that is a semantic property. So people like to have hover. When you're on desktop, you want to have mouse and keyboard support. All of it is there. I can right click anywhere on anywhere in my visual tree, and I can pop up context menus here. So you have lots more navigation things. Here is a little hamburger menu, which is kind of your flyout, and you can cater to different mobile or desktop form factors. So you can maybe do a tabs if you're running the same app on mobile, but then do flyouts if you're doing it on desktop. And this being a Mac application, you can see that I have gone ahead here and implemented my own menu bar. So these are some very desktop friendly things that have been put into .NET MAUI. And if I click on that button here, instead of just doing the regular click me, you'll notice that I actually spin up a new window. So if you're building a desktop application, you often need multi-window support, and every view gets its own window, its own object, and its own runtime. So if you want to build an app which keeps running all day, people want to dock a certain window to a certain monitor, you can do all of that with .NET MAUI. So this is all done and taken care of for you. So if I go show you the code really quickly, this is the main page.xaml. That's my image that I was on. That's semantic property. That's your text. That's your hover. Then you got context menus of just about any visual tree item. So this is all very welcome. Now that's
I don't know why, but a bunch of questions just popped into my view. I think maybe it wasn't loading. My bad. So do you want me to sprinkle them through? Because we have one. Do you recommend using frameworks like Prism with MAUI?
Frameworks like what? I missed that.
Like Prism, Prism, Prism.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, we know the person who maintains Prism a lot. It's Dan Siegel and Brian. So absolutely. So .NET MAUI is mostly a C# and XAML code base for most people, unless you want to do complete C#. And for anything C# and XAML, the MVVM design pattern works particularly well. Model view view model. Some of it is baked in into .NET MAUI, so things like navigation, things like data binding, routing, that's all built in, but not everything. So you might end up writing a bit of boilerplate code. There are some toolkits that nowadays help out, the .NET Community Toolkit. But if you'd rather pick up a MVVM framework like Prism and run with it, you are absolutely welcome to. They already have previews out for .NET MAUI support. So good things happening all over.
You have the link, but Chris was asking if you had the link to the .NET site you showed earlier with the MAUI info. So I'm not sure if you have that up still, but we can share that out in chat after.
Yeah, just do a search in .NET MAUI. This is the landing page essentially. Yeah, it'll always bring you to this page, or you can go to the GitHub repo. It's all linked from in here. So do a search essentially as well. All right, now this is .NET MAUI just straight up. If you look at the MAUI program, it's using the generic builder and it's not doing anything new. And everything here starts out with main page.xaml. This is all XAML. Now let's say you don't want to write XAML. You're not an old man like me. I get it. People don't like XAML, but there's nothing wrong with XAML. It's very powerful. But let's say you want to do something else. You want to mix and match a little bit of something else. So let's now take a look at a little bit of .NET MAUI with something that Alyssa mentioned, the web views that are very powerful. So let's go into MAUI Blazor. And if you open up this code base here, you'll notice that it's still a .NET MAUI app, and you notice let's see, CS proj, let's look at that. So on this one here, still I have one line of code change. I am running this on .NET 7 bits. But here, the interesting thing here is that MAUI program.cs now brings in what's called the Blazor web view. This is a component. This is an abstraction that essentially knows how to render a modern web view component based on whichever platform that you're on. And it's a smart abstraction. So be it on iOS, be it on Android, Windows, and Mac, it will always give you a web component. And you can actually spin up developer tools, and on Edge or on Chrome, you can actually muck with your HTML and CSS and JavaScript while your native app is running. So that's exciting. But otherwise, that web view comes in and you have a choice of mixing and matching things. So here is the web view. And essentially what it's trying to show is point me to an index HTML, and all of your Blazor pages, your Razor views are all right here, along with your routing, along with your CSS, and it's just a Blazor app that's running inside of .NET MAUI now. So which is exciting. And let's run that same app again. Now let's just do it on Mac Catalyst, and if you have done any Blazor, this will feel familiar because it's the Blazor Hello World template, but you can add on and you can do additional things on it. So that's the same Mac Catalyst app now with Blazor. There is nothing native in here, but everything is a web view. But Blazor running on .NET MAUI is essentially running on your machine. So you have full access to all of the platform specific APIs, which is very, very nice.
So Shanthu was asking about these hybrid apps, saying that we have mobile apps built with React Native, and wondering if there's 100% parity to build mobile apps using the MAUI Blazor hybrid.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So let's actually switch to Visual Studio, and I can try answering that a little bit here. Let's go to Visual Studio here, and I'm running Visual Studio 17.4. Let me show you a different, version of this, just so you get a feel. The web view is what brings it in. So if you are doing React, or if you're doing Angular or jQuery, the web view is kind of how you can bring this in. So let me show you yet another app here. So if you're interested in Maui, every Monday, this is, shameless plug here, but every Monday there is a post that goes out on our blogs, which is called Sands of Maui, that helps you kind of keep track of all the Maui news, the developer ecosystem, and folks are excited. So any articles, videos, anything that's relevant about Maui, any product updates, they all go out here. And I've been trying to make this into an app. So I just want to show you what that web view essentially does. So here's the .NET MAUI app, but now it's running on .NET 7, and it's got all the latest things. And by the way, .NET 7, the latest updates also bring you maps. So if you're doing anything geolocation, you have native map integration with iOS or Android. But take a look at this app here. This is a .NET MAUI app that's running on iOS or Android or Windows or Mac. But here we start off with just regular XAML pages and C# pages. If I go run this really quick, let's just run this on Mac as well. I do want to show you the iOS side of things really quick, but it's a desktop app or a web app or a mobile app at this point. But essentially, it's going off and finding some things in Azure. I'm keeping some of my this is all dummy data, but I'm keeping some of the the content for each of the posts in an Azure document DB so Cosmos DB, and it brings back a list of items, and then once I click on it, it actually goes off and gets that corresponding post. Now this is not formatted right, but my point is I already have this in a CMS, and if I'm just looking for rendering some static content, this one has some images which I should resize, but the hyperlinks, the styles, everything is there, right? So if I want to just bring this in, I don't have to use the Blazor web view. So take a look at this. This is my first XAML look. So I'm using the Telerik list view here. Gives me additional performance and some benefits of UI. And then once you tap on a single item, I actually take you into a detailed view. But here you'll notice, let me bump up my fonts here a little bit. You will notice that there is no need for me to use Blazor web view, right? Because I have static content. So the Blazor web view comes in and gives you additional things. It is meant for you to load up your Blazor application within your .NET MAUI app, complete with CSS and routing and Blazor components and JS interop. If you don't have a need for any of that, in this case, I'm just rendering static content, I can get away by just rendering a web view. So I'm essentially pointing it to an HTML, and it just loads up the HTML. So
two questions around this. Eric was asking why XAML, no Blazor, and I think maybe they meant no Razor. And you can see in this specific app, there's both. Maybe they were asking it with the MAUI app, but I didn't know if you wanted to speak to that.
Yeah, so any XAML page, by default, when you start up a MAUI program.cs, it's going to point to the default app XAML.cs will bring in a page here. This one here starts out at my issue list view. If I look at my issue list view, this XAML page or main page.xaml, it's your call. You'll always have this little piece of content that's your just marking it as a content page. Beyond that, you can have some native stuff, native UI, or you can have it entirely driven by your Blazor views or your React views or your Angular views. It doesn't matter.
And so Eric, if it wigs you out to see this like XAML wrapper with like Razor file, just wait until it goes deeper. We're gonna shove some JavaScript in there as well. It goes.
yeah, absolutely. Now I know Alyssa wants to. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. One more question. Jose was asking if they need Xcode to compile apps for Mac OS.
Yes, absolutely, because that's an Apple restriction. These are native apps that you're building, both for iOS and for Mac Catalyst. So essentially, when I hit F5 from Visual Studio, it does go talk to Xcode, do the app build, and comes back with an app package. So absolutely. Now, let me show you a couple more things here before I give it to Alyssa here to show you more Angular stuff. But let me set the stage here. So let me show you. Maybe a little bit of a basic Angular app, right? So let's go to MAUI Angular, and we're going to launch this. This one is an older app, so notice how I can still mix and match. So I can run this with .NET 6. Let me go back here.
So if you have like a MAUI app, whether it's hybrid or just MAUI, and it was in 6 and you want to go to 7, is upgrading similar to how you do with Angular, where there's different, like they'll list out, you need to make sure you update this dependency and you make sure you change this line of code, and there's even schematics out there to kind of change those things for you. Is it similar to that, or is it totally different? What's the,
Yeah,
what do you do?
it's exactly the same. So this one's an
Okay.
Angular app that's shoved inside of dotnet MAUI, but you saw me do a .NET 6 build on it. So let's
Yes.
open up the code base here. So essentially, you will look into your CS proj file, which is here in this case. And this one, you'll notice it's still running on Target Framework 6 for Android iOS. So first thing is you can update this 6 from, this one line of code from 6 to 7. You're going to blow away your bin and obj directories and any of your dependencies. They're not listed here because this app is super simple. It doesn't have any dependencies, but this is where your NuGet packages are. You need to make sure your NuGet packages also run on .NET 7, because now you're essentially switching up the runtime. You're switching up what the app sits on. So you need to make sure all of your dependencies are also on .NET 7. But otherwise, it is super simple. Yeah. So essentially, here's the same exact app that we just looked at. We are bringing in the Blazor web view, but if you look at the XAML here, I actually don't want it to point to a Blazor component because I'm not running Blazor here. I have a pre-built Angular application that I just want to drop in here. So this index HTML is actually the Angular index HTML, just straight up CLI project, the ng new Angular, and then I can just drop that on, and then in my desktop application I get Angular running. You will get the exact same experience if I, since we talked about Angular, it's unfair to not talk about the other one. So let's go to React, and same thing. I'm going to run this again on .NET 6 and Mac Catalyst. Let's say you have a brand new React application that you've been working on, npx create React app, and you do all your things. You do an ng build, and then you take the assets and you just put them inside of www.root, and it starts working on mobile. It starts working on desktop, and this is much less kind of heavy-handed compared to Electron, because there is no Node.js. This is all straight up .NET. There is no Chromium engine or browser component that we're shipping. It is literally running on whichever browser the OS can give you. So React and jQuery and Angular, all of those things are welcome. However, we do get this question. Yeah, go for
it. Shabir was wondering, and I would like to know too, does Telerik have specific components for the hybrid like Blazor MAUI app?
Interesting. All right, good question. First up, let me show you.
Put you on the spot.
No, I love it because it's a nice segue. So let's just say you are sold on .NET MAUI. You see the promise, it's your cross-platform dev, but your modern production app needs a little bit of UI. We are here to help. We were amongst the first to go live, and it's 50 plus components now, all production ready, all backed by our legendary support. So we are here for you essentially. So if you're looking for apps that you want to see and UI that you want to see running for your .NET MAUI apps, let me show you what's native, and then let me show you also what you can do with some of the hybrid stuff. So let's open up this one here. Let's do a control sample. We do actually have this app. You can go in your iOS or your Android device, go to the app store, and do a search for Telerik. You will likely end up on this app. We give you the source code for this. It's also open source. So let me go ahead and run this really quick, and you will see. So every type of complex UI that you can think of, it's there for you. It's ready, and it's running on .NET 7 as we speak. So this is our control gallery sample app, and it's coming up in just a second. But essentially, it's a showcase that has almost all of our UI. So think about grids and charts and complex things like progress bars and different types of indicators. It's all running, and it's one heck of a showcase.
If it works in MAUI, would it then just work in a MAUI Blazor hybrid? Like, is it basically like, all JavaScript is valid TypeScript, but not the other way around? Is it something like?
Yes. Okay. So let me flesh this out. So everything that you see here, this is our control sample gallery. So everything from barcodes to badge views to autocomplete, busy indicators, drop downs, date pickers, you name it, list views. And by the way, this grid, by the way, this is an interesting challenge for us. Where's our grid, by the way? Where am I not seeing the grid? Where's the grid?
Hidden it from you.
Hold on, I'm going to pull up the grid here. So for the first time ever, you have a data grid. Folks know us and love us for our data grids. You have a data grid from us that works on mobile and desktop. We do not take this lightly because the UX is substantially different, but it's the exact same dotnet MAUI grid that's going to work on mobile and desktop. However, to your point, all of this UI that you see here, this is all native UI. Yeah. There is nothing web in here. This is all native UI meant for iOS, meant for Android, meant for Windows and Mac, right? This is all the native stack. And if you want to go native, this is all of your XAML and C# that you need. However, if you do want to dive into some JavaScript, let's just say you've been using, Angular or, React or any of the other things. Let me show you a quick little example here. So I'm going to, I'm going to open up another solution and then show you something else. Let's go back out and clear this out. I am going to take you to another project called Maui Angular Kendo. Now I realize I'm squarely in Alyssa's territory here, so I will let her speak more to this because I am not a JavaScript developer. But I want
and we've had some questions actually about this, so don't worry. We'll be going into a full demo about exactly this.
Okay.
But gotta wait for it.
Here's the same Angular app, just CLI Angular app, hello world, nothing going on. But I have added one little component here. So you see that barcode component? That's the Kendo UI Angular component, or bring in a Kendo UI React component. Anything you build with Kendo UI for Angular, for React, for jQuery, or Vue, everything is welcome because it's just a web view. It does not care what it is, right? So it will happily render that. Now, I see we have like 22 minutes left. I do want to talk about the interrupt.
Literally, like I couldn't keep up. So Sam, can you, after when I start screen sharing, can you like maybe type in some answers? There's a lot of questions. So
I will try.
Sorry.
So I actually do want to show off the the interrupt between JavaScript and .NET. But let me show you one last thing, and then I will give it to Alyssa here to show you some more Angular stuff. But back to the point of .NET MAUI being native on mobile and desktop doesn't mean it's the same exact experience. Let me show you one more app here. And again, this is an app that's in the App Store, so you can go find it. So this one is called the Crypto Tracker because you want to keep track of cryptocurrencies, because why not, right? So I'm going to launch this app, and it's going to run on the latest .NET 7 with Xcode 14 and iOS 16. So you can see it's running on iPhone 14 Pro Max with that little the new island, thing UI UX that Apple has. So this is our crypto app. Yes, it's not real data that it's tracking, but it's pulling data from a source and trying to render the UI. So to the previous point, this is a native app, so it actually does go talk to Xcode, brings back an app package, then we launch it in the iOS simulator. So it's coming up on here on the iPhone 14. It's a cold start, so it takes a minute. But what I want to show you is once this app launches, you're going to see that it's a showcase app that has a bunch of our UI in it. So you're going to see like graphs and charts and list views in it. Let's give it one more second. There you go. So this app comes up, and here are all the maybe cryptocurrencies that you want to track. Let's just go into Bitcoin here. So you start off with a list of things, and then we tap on any particular item, let's say the Bitcoin, and then you go into a mode which shows you the details of how the pricing varied over 1 month or 6 months and year to month, and you can do like candle charts and a variety of things. So you see the UX here. This is very, very mobile mindset first. However, if we take that same exact app, and I'm not changing any line of code here, I'm literally changing where the app runs. Now let's run it on Mac Catalyst, right? And this is the pure advantage of doing .NET MAUI with a single true source code and shared resources, but different experiences on mobile and desktop. And I think it's key. Same with web apps. You have responsive maybe strategies that you want to bring in when your web app is running on smaller form factors. You can do the same exact things on the web view. But this one's a native app, so it actually knows where you're running. And .NET MAUI gives you all of those hooks to figure out where your app is running. So let's wait for this one to come up here on my Mac desktop. Okay. Now, Crypto Tracker app, same exact app, now running on desktop, be it Windows or be it Mac. You see that how the UX is different. Here, we have the list view on the left, but since we have a broader surface area, we put the detailed view on the right here on the right. So I can tap on every one of them and I can have the exact same experience. So my point is I'm not reinventing the wheel. those are views that I'm just literally reusing between mobile and desktop. When you come to it on desktop, we can just combine a couple of our views, not doing anything new, but just combining it. So we give you that extra, surface area usage that you crave for when you're coming at a desktop application. So I think these are really nice, scenarios for code sharing. But at this point, Alyssa, if you're ready, why don't I give you the
Let's
control
do it.
here?
All right.
Yeah, let's do
Are
it.
you gonna make me? You gonna make it
Yes.
go to me, or do I need to make it go to me?
Nope, it's already on to you.
Awesome. Okay, moving the comments out of the way. Show my screen. Okay, so I have a much longer talk about this exact subject. I know some of you asked about it in chat. So if there is and I obviously don't have time to do that longer talk today, but if there's one slide that I think is like the golden slide from that talk, it's this one. So if you want to use Maui Blazor hybrid app to wrap and ship any JavaScript app to multiple platforms, these are the steps that you need to take. And it's insanely easy. I get asked it often, Sam, but why? And I love that question. I think there's a lot of, I have a slide, let me show it real quick, of, why not PWA? Because even why not Electron? Why not Universal? And there's always going to be pros and cons to these different solutions. And I would hit me up on Twitter. My DM is always open at Alyssa Nichol. If you want to talk more in depth on some of these things, because I love finding out more, especially about people who are passionate about bringing things to cross-platform. And so let me go ahead and demonstrate quickly of, I have an Angular application. Oh, that's funny. It's this happened last time, and I literally ng build, I just tried building again, and I don't know, I'm not really sure. This happened yesterday during, it's because I didn't do the goat. It's because I didn't do the goat sacrifice. It's just building my, Angular app, and like a dummy, I just had it built, and I just deleted that, obviously. So when you run this command for ng build, let me show you my find. This is actually right here. I'm trying to move the questions out of the way so I can see. This is my Angular app. It's a very basic app, but it essentially highlights, it's like the Tour of Heroes, if you've ever heard it, but it's the Tour of Ponies. And I love this app. Anytime we get new components, it looks like it's going to build this time, but I'm going to go ahead and run it on the web so you can see what it looks like, just on a local host. And so let's go ahead and serve that up, and then we'll take a look. And then I'm going to show you how just incredibly painfully easy it is to put that in an app. So while that's serving up, I'm going to go, and in this empty folder, I'm going to go ahead and say .NET new, and I'm going to make and I want to make sure that panel is not in your way. Okay, I'm going to make a Maui Blazor hybrid app, and I'm just going to call it wrapper app for now, because that's all I plan on doing with it. And then it's super incredibly fast. It makes me, I was asking my friend Layla codes it today. I was like, why is it so slow to make a new Angular app, but it's so quick to make a .NET MAUI app? And she goes, because Angular sucks. And I said, that, madam, is not true. So we had it out right then and there. So, but no, it's incredibly fast. Anything I do with .NET, I'm like, why was that so fast? This is what the application structure looks like. And I'm actually going to open it up in Studio, this one. Open that up in Studio, and then we can actually go over to my Chrome window right quick and look at my localhost and see what should be hopefully beautiful, beautiful ponies. And loading in, I've got these pony cards, and these are all Kendo UI components. So it's our card component, and if you click on this, Visual Studio stopped responding. We'll restart her. Sometimes it's because Sam, this Mac, knows that as soon as I get back from Poland, she's on her way out, and so she's just it's her way of protesting, right? She knows. This is our expansion panel, and I actually have drag and drop active here for the cards. So you'll see it's a bunch of form fields and drop downs and navigation. It's all components.
So pretty much a full
these are Angular ones, but yes, exactly. And so I'm gonna I don't know if you hear my fans, but we're going to space. That's where we're going. So I'm going to go ahead and tell her she can stop running. And then we're going to see, okay, this build is not working, but have no fear. I think I have a version of it in the trash. because I was testing it right before, and this is literally how it always goes, right? Like I was testing it right beforehand, like a good developer, so that I was ready, and it was like absolutely not. So we're gonna name this one. We are inside of Progress Webinar. We're gonna name it like 99 or something, and then we're gonna go back to our trash can and move this back, put back, and then watch me get off stream and the build work. Like it's cursed, Sam. I tell you, it's cursed.
So
okay.
while you're doing that, while you
I was
give
just going
it,
to show you, I have this root app right there. Can you see this? Is it too?
I can.
Yep,
Too
tiny? Can see. You can. Okay. Anyways, you say what you're saying. You go.
So just to get back to what you were just saying, why not a PWA? You can absolutely do a PWA. Just understand the PWA is mostly a web way of deploying your apps. So yes, it works, but the moment you have to get to some very platform specific things like your APIs, like camera, geolocation maybe is easy, but accelerometer or any of the disk storage, all of those APIs, like you're in a web sandbox as compared to .NET MAUI when you're literally running native. So you have a lot more access to things. And also if you want to monetize things, if you want to put things in a store, it just makes it a little bit easier.
So I do have another version of this that I've already built, and it has the built JavaScript. So I'm going to figure out what that error is and why it happens only when I'm on stage, because there's a ghost. But let me go ahead and open up. I have a shortcut for VS Code, or no, we're going to open this one up in Visual Studio. I always sometimes mix. I'm like, which app do I need? Which IDE? And then we'll show, oh, it does not exist. Interesting. Hang on, what is this app? How does it not exist? Oh, it's called Tour of Ponies. I'm a goober. It's like, well, because the file doesn't exist, Alyssa. Hello. All right. Tour of Ponies. Let's open that up, and then I'll show you that slide that I was like, this is the meat of the talk. It essentially breaks down, you build your JavaScript app, you go and you build a Maui Blazor hybrid app, and then you go into the www root folder of that Maui Blazor hybrid app, and you're going to drag your built JavaScript files in. And hopefully she actually opens for us. I don't know, like she's having a day, and I get it, right? Like it's tough. She thinks
you're also on hotel
there
Wi-Fi.
We go. There we go. Okay, so we are in the www root, and you can actually see all of these files. I'm going to expand this a little bit. And these were drug over from my built Angular application. I had someone come up to me, and they were talking to me at the .NET conference that I'm at, and they were asking about if they just had like a vanilla JavaScript app. And it's the same. It's the same. Whatever web application you have, whether it needs compiled or it's just already in raw JavaScript, you plop it in here. And then we're also going to open up main page.xaml, and that is where Sam was showing earlier. And I'm going to I have no idea how to collapse this thing, so I'm just going to make this smaller. I'm super duper bad at IDEs. The first time, Sam, that I was on stream for .NET, I tried vimming into a C# file, and everyone was like, "What are you doing with your life?" So I learned that's not the way. That is not the way. So. This is the Blazor web view that he was talking about. I deleted the inner piece of this that was pointing to the Blazor web view root component because I don't need that. But what we're essentially doing is, because we drag and drop those files, our index file, that is the Angular app, the Pony Angular app, is now what that's pointing to. So if we run it, hopefully she doesn't crash. We can knock on all the wood. We'll see whether we do it in Android, whether we do it in iOS or Mac Catalyst, which is what I'm attempting to do. Yeah, we've got a bug. We have a bug. Yes, Maui does not contain a definition. You know what I think this is? I think it's because I was messing around with my .NET versions earlier, and I think my dependencies they're on the wrong one. But I actually were way out of time. I'm so sorry. I went way over.
No, you're good.
You're good, Sam.
And what Alyssa is referring to is some of the workloads and the versioning of things. You need to be careful because there are lots of moving pieces here. .NET MAUI does depend on native bits for Angular and for
well, and
iOS
my friends
Android.
were like, they were horrified that I was on the RC. And I said, but James Montemagno, he's on the RC. So shouldn't I be on the RC? I don't know.
So how about I take the screen back, Alyssa, if you don't mind.
Yeah, take it over.
Okay.
Take it over, man.
All right. Let's. There are way too many questions. I'm going to try to maybe answer some of them, and I'll show
I
you more of the
know. I'm so sorry about the
no
lack
worries.
of answering questions. There's a lot.
So first thing is, somebody was asking about reusability. Let's just say you have a vanilla JavaScript app. Am I sharing my screen yet? Am I?
Yeah.
Should be.
Yeah, I see
Yeah.
you.
Okay. All right.
I
Good.
see you're using statements.
Yes. Okay. So if you have a vanilla JavaScript app, or if you have a Blazor app, let's just say, because I mean, prior to dotnet MAUI, Blazor was only for the web, so you don't have to throw away what you have and rebuild it all in dotnet MAUI. You can all, they can all happily coexist. So I'm going to show you this solution here. This is one that I call Blazor Everywhere. So in here, the Blazor for web, these are my web apps. That's my WebAssembly app. That's my ASP.NET hosted server. This is my shared validations and components and models between the client and the server. That's all web. And then I've strapped on my dotnet MAUI app with Blazor template. But for both the Blazor here that is meant for the web, I don't have the pages directory. I don't have the shared resources, the layouts. And same for the dotnet MAUI app, because those are not things I want to recreate in once for Blazor for web and then once for dotnet MAUI. So you can absolutely reuse, because I have put everything here into a shared Razor class components library, and that these are my pages, my counter, my index Razor, and here are my shared services, my layouts, and I can have implementations that are different from Blazor running on web versus desktop or web. So this makes it really easy for me to share and truly have a single code base. So all I have to do is refer a couple of things, and then in my app Razor, which is how your Blazor app engine starts up, in your router you just point it to the shared assembly. That's about it. So now all you have to do in your Visual Studio is switch up where you want to run the app. So this one here is running for the web. So let's go ahead and do that, and this will be exactly what you expect: Blazor running on the web app, in your browser as things were intended. So it's running on localhost. Let me show you that real quick if I can go to my Chrome. So let's go to localhost 5000. That's Blazor running on the browser, exactly the way Angular was running on your browser. I am reading dimensions here. That's coming from JavaScript, right? So, and my counter component, everything is the same. It's blue. But since this is shared now between Blazor for web and Blazor for native, I can essentially just switch up the project type. Let's set the dotnet MAUI app as my project, and let's go into some CSS. I'm in, this is territory here. That's the background button. You get the vanilla CSS. You can change this up. So let's just go and change the background color to pink, because Alyssa likes ponies. We're going to make that pink. Yeah. And we're going to comment that line out. So essentially, I'm changing a little bit of CSS or Sass or less that is in my shared directory, and you will see that impact on both the dotnet MAUI app for iOS, Android, Windows, or Mac, and Blazor for the web. So, but I do have the native app selected now. Let's go ahead and run this really quick. But that's the advantage. Your Blazor components are literally staying in a common spot. So when you make a change, you see the change on the web as well as on native apps. So truly shared code base, shared Blazor components across web and desktop. This is building. It might take a second, and then I want to show you one last thing before we end. And I'm sure there are lots of questions. And again, we'll have our Twitter handles up again, so you can ask us questions even after the webinar. But here's the same exact app that's coming up now. Now it's running on Mac Catalyst. You can see like it's still Blazor everywhere. It's telling me, hey, I'm running on Mac Catalyst, and it's giving me the window dimensions. This, by the way, is coming straight up from dotnet MAUI. Now I don't have to go talk to JavaScript because it's a native app. And let's go into the counter here. And here's my pink button to make Alyssa happy, right? So CSS changed in one spot. Now, if I launch this app on the web browser, you're going to see the same exact thing. So what I'm trying to say is your Blazor for web and native can truly coexist in a single solution in a shared spot. So you make a change once and you see it everywhere else. Now, let's show you one more thing here. It's one thing to say, Blazor and Angular are, welcome. What kind of native things can you do? And can you really make the two of them talk to each other? So let's look at that. And let's get it out. And we're going to go into, let's see if I remember the name, Angular interop, right? So let's go to MAUI Angular interop.
So I'm frantically working to fix this problem, but essentially I updated my Angular version and strict mode on types are now true. And so it's just places that I was a little bit more flexible on my typing.
Sure, yeah. Okay, so I have done pretty much exactly the same thing that Alyssa has done. I have an Angular project that is built, and I have dropped those things in my .NET MAUI project. This one starts out with .NET MAUI with Blazor. So notice how we are bringing in the Blazor web view, but we're not actually using the Blazor page. So here's my Blazor web view. It's actually not reading any of this because the index HTML just points it to a whole other app. That's my Angular app. So here's my index HTML. However, there's one thing interesting here. So if I look at the Blazor index HTML, there are two things that the Blazor index HTML is doing. One is it gives you this div tag. This is kind of similar to what Angular or React will do. This is the div tag inside of which your entire app is rendered, right? It also brings in a script reference, a JavaScript reference. This is what brings in the JS interrupt. So if you have JavaScript that you're talking to within your Blazor application, you can bring that over, but you need that bridge to be able to talk to it carefully. So if I show you the index HTML in my Angular app, I do actually still have that same reference, even though I'm not using Blazor, but I'm just bringing that in. So with that, I can go ahead and run this really quick here. Let's do a .NET 6 build, Mac Catalyst, that's good. Notice how easy it is to switch back and forth between .NET 6 and .NET 7. You're not forced to upgrade, but if you do want to, it's fairly easy. So there are two things I want to show you here once this app comes up. Angular running on .NET MAUI, nothing spectacular about this, except you notice these two things here. I got a screen width and screen height. That is coming from straight up JavaScript, the .NET, or I mean the JavaScript window that Angular can reference, and I have a listener on that. So this is purely in my Angular app. So if I collapse this, you can see that screen dimensions did change, right? So we are listening, and the web view is trying to adjust to the JavaScript window and the dimensions that you have. And then also, if I tap on this little thing here, get device info, we are actually calling into some .NET MAUI APIs. Now from Angular, so we had .NET going into JavaScript to read the window dimensions, and now we have JavaScript reaching back into .NET to get you the device dimensions and the camera and the accelerometer and any of the .NET MAUI APIs that you have that are device specific. So it's fairly easy to reach into that because we have that bridge. And if I show you the code here, essentially there's a there's a little JavaScript reference here. This is my interrupt, and it's just straight up JavaScript. You can have this in your .NET MAUI project or in your Angular or your React project, but it's straight up JavaScript. So here's my device info, and we are calling into this little DLL, and we are calling into that particular function and trying to grab a result and then replace what we have in our DOM with that result. So how is that working? Essentially, that's a .NET method, right? So you can bring in this this namespace, Microsoft JS interrupt, and then start decorating your .NET methods with that attribute. JS invocable, that's what exposes them up to JavaScript, and then JavaScript can call into .NET APIs. So that's the device info we are calling into. These are all .NET MAUI APIs, the name, the orientation, and you can get to any other device info like battery or storage or you name it. You can get to all of it from JavaScript as long as you have that bridge, so .NET and JavaScript can talk to each other.
So you want to wrap up by sharing my screen again? Hopefully it pops up. I fixed the bug.
Your screen? Okay, let's do that. We got 1 minute left.
I know. Share it. Share it. I'm doing the build. All right. Show my main screen.
You have control.
Like 20 seconds. We'll see if it pops up. But I did get the build to work. It was just TypeScript errors. Yours truly. I know. Infallible. I think not. So she is building for the Mac Catalyst. What's really, really cool is that I do have the option to build for like virtually any iOS device and Android device on here as well. Can I do tvOS? Is that a thing? Like I keep seeing.
No, not yet. No. So with Xamarin, you could do watchOS and tvOS. It's catching up. It's going to get there very soon.
I see. Okay. Because I'm like, I keep seeing different like NuGet packages for tvOS, and I'm like, is that a thing that I can do right now? So hopefully she pops up for you. Are there any other last minute questions you wanted to get to? I know we're going to go a minute over, but I think it'll be worth it to see.
Before we end, though, I do want to go back to my screen because I do want to end with our our handles, because folks are asking about where can I get the source code. I got all of those out for you, but we are waiting on your build real quick. There you go. It's coming up.
There she is. There's the ponies. You've got the animations that are just CSS animations. These are all Kendo UI for Angular components, and I mean, it just like works the way you'd expect it to. I don't know, it's just exciting.
Let me make a statement here. Everything that you get from Telerik UI for Blazor, all of our 100+ components, everything that you get for Kendo UI on Angular, React, jQuery, everything just works because it's a web view. It just does not care. So it's a good story. So now let me take the screen back here from you, Lisa, one last time. And then let's go back here. I would do want to end with this because I hope people are seeing the promise a little bit. And let's see if I can go full screen on this.
I think it's really cool. I love it.
We have all the ammunition, folks, here to start mixing and matching, technology stacks, moving our apps forward. Let's, go change the world. And if you want any of the slides, which I mean, we'll email you the recording and some of the content after the webinar. But if you want the slides, if you want any of the demos, those are our 2 handles, okay? So hit us up on Twitter and also on GitHub. Most of what I just showed you, they're already up on my GitHub repo, so look them up if you want. Some folks were asking about the Blazor everywhere, as well as the Angular interop. They're all up there on GitHub, so take a look around. This is all sample code. I think Alyssa and me are excited with the possibilities that we can really mix and match, and .NET and JavaScript can coexist. All of your web investments, they will happily serve up web apps, but now you can consider bringing them over onto native mobile and desktop, and cater to different experiences because they're not the same form factors. All right, Alyssa, any last thoughts?
No, just hope you guys are as excited as we are, because it's very, guys and gals, because it's very exciting stuff. So,
so I hope everyone feels welcome. It's still new, but we are excited. We see the promise, and hopefully you do too. Thank you so very much for spending an hour of your day with us. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Be healthy, be productive, and we'll see you on the next webinar. All right, thank you.